Hey kids, welcome to lesson 8.1, day 1, 2D arrays. Arrays in Java can store many items of the same type. You can even store items in two-dimensional 2D arrays, which are arrays that have both rows and columns. A row has a horizontal element, a column has a vertical element. In the picture below, there are 3 rows of lockers and 6 columns. And kids, this visual, this is the best thing you're probably going to get. Rows go this way, columns up and down. And really what we're going to do is we're going to tell it which row we're at, which column we're at, and that's going to store the information. Two-dimensional arrays are especially useful when the data is naturally organized in rows and columns, like a spreadsheet, a bingo, battleship, theater seating, classroom seating, a picture. In battleship, letters map to the rows, A for the first, B for the second, so on, so on. The column, well, they start with 1. And that's just showing you how it is, kids. Many programming languages actually store two-dimensional array data in one-dimensional arrays. The typical way to do this is to store all the data for the first row followed by all of the data for the second row, and so on and so on. Well, this is called row major order. Some languages store all of the data for the first column followed by all the data for the second column, and so on, so on. That is called column major. And if you look right here, kids, here is our 2D array. In a row, we just take this, move this up here for one long row. And in this one, we're just doing the same, but with columns. So it goes boop, boop, boop down there like that. Just keep these in mind. You might see what row major or column major is on the test. How Java stores 2D arrays. Java actually stores a two-dimensional array as an array of arrays. Each element of the outer array has a reference to the inner array. The picture below shows a 2D array that has 3 rows and 7 columns. Notice that the array indices start at 0 and then end at the length of -1. Just remember, kids, when we start at 0, we always end at -1. In here, you can see we have row 0, row 1, row 2, and then we have our column indexes here, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So again, kids, remember row and then column. On the exam, assume that any two-dimensional array is a row major order. The outer array can be thought of as the rows and the inner arrays as the columns. On the exam, all inner arrays will have the same length, even though it is possible in Java to have inner arrays of different lengths, also called ragged arrays. And again, all this is saying here, kids, row major, just make sure if you see anything that's 2D and it's like this, just assume it's in row major order. We got some questions to test our knowledge. Let's see how much we learned so far, kids. Click on all the values in the row at index 2. That means we're looking for the row 0, 1, 2. All the values in the row, well, that would be this one, this one, this one, and this one. Click on all the values in the column at index 1. Rows are over here going like this. Columns are going up and down. 0, 1. All of the values in column 1, that should be here, here, and here. Click on the value at row index 2 and a column index 1. Row 0, 1, 2 is right here. Columns go 0, 1. Row index 2, column index 1. Well, that should be that right there. Click on the value at row index 0 and column index 2. Row 0, 1, 2, 0 here. Column 0, 1, 2. Well, that should be that one right there. Our last one, click on the value at row index 1 and a column index 1. 0, 1, 0, 1. Should be that one. There we are. To declare a 2D array, specify the type of elements that will be stored in the array, then 2 little brackets right there, row, column, to show that it is a 2D array of that type. Then at least 1 space and the name of the array. Note that the declaration below just names the variable and say what type of array it will reference. The declarations do not create the array. That's very important there, kids. That's not creating it. Arrays are objects in Java, so any variable that declares an array holds a reference to that object. If the array hasn't been created yet, and you try to print the value of the variable inside, it'll print null because there is nothing there yet. So again, kids, just remember, we got to create our object, then we can create our array. To create an array, use the new keyword followed by a space, then the type, and then the number of rows in a square bracket followed by the number of columns in a square bracket, like this. New data type, number of rows, number of columns. The code below creates a 2D array with 2 rows and 3 columns named ticket info, and a 2D array with 3 rows and 2 columns named seating chart. The number of elements in a 2D array is the number of rows times the number of columns. That's just saying how many elements total we have in there. If you just take rows times columns, 2 times 3, well, kids, that is a 6. This is asking me how many elements are in ticket info. Well, that's that one right here. And again, we have 2 rows, 3 columns. 2 times 3 is 6, kids. So that should be 6 right there. What will the following code print out? Can you change a ticket info to be an array of 5 rows and 10 columns? Can you declare another array called student names that has 10 rows and 5 columns? The length property of an array will be explained in the next lesson. So we're really going to get into the length here in the next chapter, but let's take some guesses on what this does down here. If you see, we have our new array here. It is called ticket info. It is an integer with 2 rows, 3 columns. And then we have 2 prints, ticket info length, and that looks like it's rows, and ticket info, and then we have a square bracket 0 length is the columns. Well, I think what this is doing is printing off this first index here, and I think this is calling to this index right here. That means we're pulling it index 0 for the length. Just keep that in mind. This should print off 2 rows of 3 columns. Let's see if I'm all right, kids. 2 rows of 3 columns. Can we change it for 5 rows of 10 columns? Well, I think we established we just need to change all these right here. And if I hit print, I should get 5 rows, 10 columns. We declare another new array here called student name. And that one has to have 10 rows and 5 columns. I think we can do that, kids. Let's come down here. This is going to be our new array. And this one, we have to declare one. And this one, we want it to be student names. And we're really just going to take this right here. But we don't want a integer data type, do we? We want probably a string. So we have to keep that in mind. And we have to change all these numbers. So I think what it's going to look like is a string. We have to declare our brackets here. 1 space. That's very important. Don't forget your variable name, student names like this. This is going to equal a new string. Remember, data type. And 2 more and your semicolon. This time we want to go 10 and 5. And we're going to print off what looks like the same thing up here. Do a system dot out.println. And this is going to be our new variable, student names. And we'll do length. And that's going to be plus our rows. Don't forget your semicolon. And one more, system print. And this is going to be a student names. And this time, we're going to get that 0. And this will be columns like above. Now we should get 10 and 5 printed off here. 10 rows, 5 columns. Let's see if I'm right, kids. Whoop. Looks like we forgot an important part here, kids. Remember the dot length at the end, because we're getting the length. Now we get the rows and columns printed off like that. And it is interesting how that 0 works, kids. I am really, really interested to see how that works. If I had to take a guess, I'm going to say that deals with some sort of index referring to my column. Well, kids, that's all we had to do for day 1 of lesson 8.1. And really, that's all for this video. Hopefully you found it helpful, kids. As always, if you have any questions, you can come see me. Otherwise, I'm going to see you on the next video, kids. See you later. Bye. Bye. Bye.